News across the globe. Iraq is moving in tandem with the BRICS philosophy as it banned 8 banks from initiating transactions in the US dollar. The Middle Eastern country is cracking down on the US dollar months after it banned all cash withdrawals in the currency. 8 local banks are banned from accessing the daily US dollar auction conducted by Iraq's central bank. The local banks will no longer have access to the US dollar reserves the country's central bank holds. Also, the move plays straight into the BRICS playbook, where the alliance aims to stall the growth of the US dollar. In the US dollar, it will be affected if BRICS stops using the dollar for trade. Moreover, Iraq is struggling to control the black market transaction if the US dollar is hampering in its native economy. One of the basic questions we are asking this evening is, why will Iraq ban US dollar transaction? Iraq claims, and its aim also is to control the fluctuating black market exchange rate that has been plaguing this country for long enough. However, its main source of hard currency is heavily import dependent and has become the main point of a US crackdown on currency smuggling to neighboring Iran.
Oh well, Putin challenger Boris Nadezhd barred from Russia's election. Russia's election commission has rejected anti-war challenger Boris Nadezhd as a candidate in next month's presidential elections. Well, Mr. Nadezhd has been relatively critical of Vladimir Putin's full-scale war in Ukraine when few dissenting voices have been tolerated in Russia. He had tried to challenge claims by the Election Commission that more than 15% of the signatures he submitted with his candidate application were flawed. But the Commission rejected his bid, refusing to give up. Mr. Nadezhd said on social media that he would challenge the decision in Russia's Supreme Court. The Central Election Commission said that more than 9,000 signatures submitted by Mr. Nadezhd were invalid. That left 95,587 names, meaning he was just short of the 100,000 required signatures to register as a candidate. Commission member Andrei Shuchev told this.
While in US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the response from Hamas on a deal to free the remaining hostages and reach a sustained pause in fighting in Gaza creates space for agreement to be reached, despite containing what he called some clear non-starters. Well, we will work at that relentlessly until we get there, Blinken said at a news conference in Tel Aviv on Wednesday following a day of meetings with top Israeli officials. The top U.S. diplomat suggested that negotiations towards an agreement would continue despite Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu dismissing the counter proposal from Hamas as delusional, just as earlier.
One of the things we want to make sure, as well as I said, is that assistance be able to move smoothly and sustainably, but there was nothing to cancel. Second, I guess I'll go in reverse order. On the hostage agreement, again, I can only repeat myself. Clearly, there are things that Hamas sent back that are absolute non-starters, and I assume that's what the Prime Minister was referring to, but I don't want to speak for him. But at the same time, we see in what was sent back space to continue to pursue an agreement, and these things are always negotiations. It's not flipping a light switch. It's not yes or no. There's invariably back and forth. And as I said, we see the space for that. And given the imperative, given the importance that we all attach to bringing the hostages home, we're intent on pursuing it.
Well, just like you've heard here, Netanyahu says there is not a commitment. There has to be a negotiations. He says it is a process, and at the moment, from what he sees from Hamas, it is not happening. Well, we'll get you with all of the briefings as it continues.
Well, on Hamas' response to the ceasefire offer within the 135-day truce plan, Hamas has laid out a series of demands, including exchanging hostages for Palestinian prisoners and rebuilding Gaza, in response to an Israel-backed ceasefire proposal. Now, the armed group wants a full withdrawal of Israeli forces and an end to the war after 345-day truce period. The offer is likely to be unacceptable to Israel's prime minister, who has called for total victory in Gaza. The question is whether a middle ground can be reached to move the process on. Hamas's response is a counter-offer to a ceasefire proposal backed by Israel and the US and mediated by Qatar and Egypt, details of which have not been made public yet.
Meanwhile, in Japan, a defense firm in Japan has altered a strategic cooperation agreement with an Israeli military tech company following the International Court of Justice ruling last month, urging the country to prevent genocide in Gaza. The partnership was established at the request of the Japanese Defense Ministry as it deemed necessary for national security and Japan's self-defense forces. Well, this is what he told the early press conference. Well, on the 26th of January, what court ruling, Hachimura said Tokyo supports the court's role and is cutting off the pact. In March 2023, Itocho signed a strategic cooperation memorandum of understanding with Elbit System, an Israeli military corporation and technology and defense equipment manufacturer. Companies under the umbrella of Itochu Co. have overseas investments in various sectors, including energy, finance, defense, chemistry, communication, food, textile, and construction.